Have you ever sat down to binge some good old TV and thought, wait, where did all the Black girls go?
We get it. This is Lost Credits, a podcast about the Black girls we've loved and what popular culture does to them. I'm Ashley Wade.
And I'm Tamika Townsell.
We are professors, Black feminist media scholars, and writers. We started Lost Credits to revive the conversation around representation in media studies.
That means we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us after the episode to let us know what you think.
And if you head to our website, you'll find bonus features like discussion guides, teaching tips, and recommended reading.
Well, Ashley, we've covered a lot this season, from Lisa Turtle to Laura Winslow, from the 1990s Ashley Banks to her 21st century reimagining and Bel Air. We've explored the similarities and differences between the television landscape that Black girls entered in the so-called golden era of Black Hollywood to the digital era where Black girlhood is streamed. We've also asked some deep questions with complicated answers. What happened to the Black girl protagonists that thrived in our adolescence? Why are Black girls so disposable in Hollywood? What happens to Black girl stars in crisis? How does Black popular culture's obsession with Black boys coming of age impact how Black girls get to show up on our screens? And why it's so rare to find a Black girl with an active erotic life that isn't tragic on television. All of this, and we still didn't get to everything. So I think it's only right that we let the people know that we will be back for a sophomore season.
Yes, because we still have so much more to discuss. And since we devoted our first season to the Black girls we grew up watching in our living rooms, bedrooms, kitchen, or wherever else we had a television, it's only right that we shift our focus to Black girls on the big screen for our next season. I love a good television series, but I can get lost in a good movie. So for this episode, we're going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of us getting our Black feminists Siskel and Ebert on as we talk about the 2006 film Akeelah and the Bee, starring the incomparable Lauren Keke Palmer, better known as Keke.
Yes, I'm so excited. So before we get into the Keke of it all, we have a lot to talk about with today's replay. As a reminder, this is a segment where we offer quick takes on things we're watching, reading, or listening to. We're recording this episode just after the close of the 2024 Summer Olympic Games in Paris, an event where Black girls made history for many reasons. This replay is dedicated to them.
We want to welcome you to the 2024 Summer Olympic Games. On behalf of Team USA, we're gonna make it do what it do, These superstars that represent us, the people of this big, bold, beautiful, complicated nation. Are you looking for New America? All rooting together for them. It's Noah Lyles! Come on, you gotta love Noah and Sha'Carri. And I know you know my girl Simone.
Without a doubt, the greatest of all time.
Born to fly, destined to inspire. What a team to believe in. What a night to celebrate. Yeah.
Now, Ashley, you're the expert in this conversation because you've been following the careers of the Black girl icons that we saw dominate in this year's games longer than I have. This was really my first year watching closely and following multiple events. So why don't you start us off? What got your attention this year?
Well, gymnastics and track have always been my favorite sports in the Summer Olympics, ever since watching Dominique Dawes and Jackie Joyner-Kersee back in the 90s. But Simone Biles, the gymnastics GOAT, was the athlete I looked forward to watching the most at these particular games. And I was so happy to see her return after not being able to complete her events in the Tokyo Olympics in 2021.
Mhm.
And she did not disappoint, which she couldn't have anyway.
Right.
I get goosebumps watching her do moves that no one else can do and making it look effortless.
She is always so fast with this bar routine, and it's jam-packed with difficulty.
Sam, it's over before it started, and she makes it look like ho-hum.
I hope you didn't blink because you'd miss it.
Flies through that routine.
And one of the things that I loved most about watching gymnastics this year was to see the difference between the teams from when I was a little girl to now. Simone Biles, a dark-skinned Black girl, now woman, is the face of United States gymnastics.
Mhm.
And also Jordan Childs rocking her blinged out grill during the team medal ceremony. That was a vibe. Jordan is a vibe, period. And I am sad about how the judges have robbed her of her bronze medal for the individual floor exercises, but they cannot change the impact that she had. And the all-Black podium at the end of the individual finals was everything. The track girlies also gave me life. So Sha'Carri's redemption in the 4x1, Gabby Thomas doing all the things on and off the track, and Sydney McLaughlin, LeVron beasting the 400-meter hurdles and setting a new world record so she beat the world record that she had already set.
Right.
So they slayed, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
The race for gold is on. Team USA right in the middle in lane 5. Melissa Jefferson in the red, blue, and white for the United States. She's made up the stagger to her outside. But Great Britain's there as well. T.T. Terry's got the stick now, and T.T. Terry is making up ground. Gabby Thomas has given the exchange and had to wait a little while. Yeah, that exchange took a little longer than they would have wanted, so it's Great Britain out front. They will hand off first. Amy Hunt is making the exchange to Darrell Leader. Here comes Sha'Carri Richardson. Look to the far side. Sha'Carri's got him covered. All the way to the line. USA wins gold.
Watching Sydney, watching Sha'Carri, watching Gabby, watching other Black girls we saw, particularly within the track and field matches, this was just next level. I think that what we were watching felt so impossible to me, and yet we were seeing it in real time. Social media and racial politics also impacted the viewing experience for me and many others at this year's games. I think it's safe to say that the majority of the athletes competing grew up with social media, right? These are mostly athletes in their early to mid 20s and some even in their teens. TikTok, the gram, these tools are just as much a part of their overall platform and brand as their endorsement deals. And research tells us that Black girls are particularly adept social media creatives. We know how to make it do what it do, okay? We saw Black girls using their voices to celebrate each other this year, to give side eye where it was needed, and to expose nonsense. So there are a few moments that stood out to me, and I loved being able to have this kind of parallel narration of what was going on in Paris over the past few weeks, alongside of what we were seeing through official broadcasts and what those journalists and commentators were talking about. So here's the first moment that I want to touch on. So Serena Williams put a restaurant on blast for refusing to accommodate her and her children. Williams, of course, attended the games with her family and was a torchbearer in the opening ceremony. And we already know that Serena Williams is the GOAT, right? We don't need to explain there.
Right.
Of course, everybody was on Serena Williams' side. How can you not give her a little bit of special treatment? And I think that that is what this was ultimately about, how Black icons get treated, especially outside of the United States, versus how icons who are white get treated, right? Someone like Serena Williams, I think it's normal for her to expect a little bit of special treatment so that she can have a peaceful dining experience, especially with her children. So her and the restaurant kind of got into a little bit of a back and forth. Of course, they defended their actions, saying that despite the fact that she couldn't see anyone seated in the rooftop, which is where she wanted to try to dine in peace with her family, that in fact, the empty tables were claimed by diners who just hadn't shown up yet, but that they look forward to, serving her in some imagined future. Okay, so that's the first moment I wanted to talk about. Now I want to get into the fact that we got this glimpse into the confusion leading up to the 100-meter women's final, where Sha'Carri Richardson earned silver and Julian Alfred of St. Lucia won gold, earning her country's first Olympic medal ever. Yes. Okay, even if you are not from St. Lucia, don't have no kind of connection to St. Lucia, you were rooting for her and happy for her.
Exactly.
It was a truly beautiful win. But here's the drama that we didn't really see, but that through social media, we got a glimpse into. So Richardson and fellow sprinter Shelly Ann Fraser-Price were not staying in the Olympic Village. And so they weren't informed about a change in the entry gate that they would need to enter to warm up for the race. Because they weren't informed of that change, they had shown up at one entry gate, had to go to a different one, and that meant that they didn't have enough time to do the warm up in the way that they had planned. And warm ups are very, very important. There's speculation. Of course, we from the outside can't say for sure, but that perhaps Sha'Carri, who was by far the favorite to win gold, that she would have perhaps won gold had she been able to warm up in the way that she had planned. Shelly Ann Fraser-Price ends up not actually competing in the final, and they say that she had developed an injury or something. But it was interesting to get that tea and sort of see, similar to what happened with Serena, but with much higher stakes, of course, this rejection of Black women icons. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, just let them in the gate.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that, like, it's not just like, oh, I have to go to a different gate. They had to walk 45 minutes on concrete to get to the other gate. So imagine how that would affect your performance when you didn't get to warm up and you're already tired because you had to walk for almost an hour that you weren't planning to walk.
Exactly. Not just the physical wear and tear that can come from that. And I have spent many a day between undergrad and grad school on the streets of Paris. Those some old streets, okay? They feel very different from a track. And so there's the physical toll, but then there's also the mental. You think about how that type of diversion from the plan starts to sow seeds perhaps of self-doubt in one's mind as you're preparing for what was for Sha'Carri, of course, really the race of her life up to this point. Now, we will see far more from her. We saw lots from her. We know what she's capable of. We still have nothing but love for her. And this didn't dim her light in any way, shape, or form, I think, as far as us fans are concerned. But it was very unfortunate. And I think that this type of confusion was interesting. Also, one quick note, and I'm not sure why they weren't staying in the Olympic Village, but I will say that leading up to this year's Olympics, Paris has this climate campaign going on. And so the mayor of Paris wanted to ensure that as they hosted this year's games, they did it as green a way as possible. There was no air conditioning in the Olympic Village. Now, different countries could supply their athletes with what I'm assuming were portable AC units. But that had a lot of controversy. Now, it's my understanding that all of the US athletes were going to be provided with AC units. But because apparently air conditioning is bad for the climate, this was a commitment that Paris made. All right. And so the last few points that I want to get to here, this next one is quick. We saw Asia Wilson give an interview response. Of course, Asia Wilson is who we all consider to be the MVP, representing the undefeated women's basketball team, representing the US. So she gave an interview response right after the team had secured gold that she had to know would go viral. I think that speaks to this fact that these are athletes who have grown up with social media. They kind of speak very effortlessly, not just in sound bites, but in these sort of tweetable and very easily memeable sound bites. A reporter asked Wilson to describe Kalia Copper in one word after the women's basketball team secured the 7th straight gold medal for the US. And Wilson replied with, "That bitch." Okay, enough said. If you haven't seen this moment, go look it up. We'll have it linked in the show notes. Okay, and finally, Simone Biles. Okay, she was flipping and she was posting. All right, and I was loving every minute of this, right? She was serving just as much on her social media platforms as she was on the gymnastics floor.
Yes.
So she clapped back at a disparaging comment that Donald Trump made about Black jobs during a presidential debate. Look that up. And this is also interesting because the Olympics are happening, and the backdrop of the Olympics is a much messier, historically messy and complicated US presidential campaign season. There's so much that we get from this clapback, right? Simone Biles says something to the effect of like, enjoying my Black job. And Trump used Black jobs despairingly. He is trying to make immigrants from Latin American countries the enemies of Black people in the US. And he's saying, look, the immigrants who are coming from these Latin American countries are taking Black jobs. He doubles down on this multiple times when given an opportunity by journalists to correct what he said. He doesn't know what a Black job is, right? None of us really know what a Black job is. We know what he's talking about. What he's trying to say is jobs that are lower paying, jobs that would be referred to as unskilled or low skilled labor. But we see lots of different people with platforms happily expressing the joy that they have with their Black job. And yes, being Simone Biles, the GOAT, is a Black job. She also clapped back at former gymnast Michaela Skinner's disrespectful digs. I thought this was hilarious about a new generation of athletes representing Team USA Gymnastics. This is drama that didn't need to be drama. I thought to myself, Skinner, what you doing, girl?
Right.
Do you not know how social media works? Essentially, Skinner had made some disparaging comments about this new generation of Team USA Gymnastics, about them being lazy and not having work ethic, that kind of thing. She later says, I didn't communicate effectively what I was trying to say. You just regret what you said because you didn't realize how it would land. So Simone Biles is competing alongside of these very talented girls. And as they win gold, is like, yeah, not so lazy, right? Not so undisciplined. it brings up in people's minds what Skinner said. Simone Biles doesn't mention Skinner by name, but like, girl, you said what you said. And social media is nothing if not, a treasure trove of receipts. So the fact that you said what you said and said it loud on your little YouTube channel means that that's going to follow you. Apparently, according to Skinner, she starts to experience all of this trauma. And this is not a joke if she really did. It's not funny if she really did get death threats. So she really wants to draw attention to herself as a kind of victim and her family as victims. And she calls on Simone Biles to like call off her fans who are now threatening her life and the life of her baby. When it was all said and done, Ashley, Black girls and women didn't just dominate at the Olympics this year. Through their social media, they won loud. And I love that for us.
Let's get into the main focus for today's episode, Miss Keke Palmer, who spelled her way into our hearts in her breakout performance in Akeelah and the Bee, and has been on our big and small screens ever since.
Fanciful.
Fanciful.
That is correct, and you have won Crenshaw's inaugural spelling bee.
Excuse me. Spell prestidigitation.
I'm sorry, sir, but this girl is only 11. Mr. Welch, what is this?
Prestidigitation.
You know that feeling where no matter what you do or where you go, you just don't fit in? Prestidigitation. 'Cause it's how I feel all the time. Prestidigitation.
That's correct.
Woo! My name's Akeelah Anderson, and I'm 11 years old.
Dr. Joshua Larrabee thinks you have a chance of going all the way to the national.
So let's take a little bit of time to contextualize Keke Palmer's career and her star power.
So when I started doing research for this episode, it occurred to me that Keke Palmer is, in a sense, Black famous. So that's a term that gets used to describe stars whose talent and fame is well established among Black audiences, but only among Black audiences. This happens to all kinds of celebrities, including Black girls, even when they are multi-hyphenates like Keke. So as we get into our discussion today, I want us to keep in mind that the level of Keke's brand and industry terms does not fully capture her star power. I am convinced that in a Hollywood that wasn't so obsessed with whiteness, Keke Palmer would be bigger than Mary-Kate and Ashley, bigger than Miley Cyrus, bigger than Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan, bigger than Melissa Joan Hart and Mandy Moore. I thought about this when a video came up in one of my social media feeds recently. In the video, Miley Cyrus, who played the role of Hannah Montana, is reading through what would have been a typical work schedule for her at 12 or 13 years old. It's pretty much a nonstop 12 to 14-hour workday. Apparently, it's been going around because Cyrus just became the youngest person ever to be awarded the Disney Legend honor. And this is a real thing. At first, when I saw people talking about this, I thought that just meant people were calling her a legend. Her started Disney. No, Disney Legend is an actual award. So this is what Walt Disney's website says. Quote, since 1987, the Walt Disney Company has honored individuals who have made major contributions to the company over the years by placing bronze emblems in the sidewalk in front of the studio theater and having the honorees put their signatures and handprints in the cement. I watched this video of Cyrus talking about, the work that she had to put in, which led to her being a Disney legend. And I'm not disputing that at all. But I said, all right, let's compare resumes, shall we? So Akeelah and the Bee was Keke Palmer's first lead role. But she had already starred in Barbershop 2 and Medea's Family Reunion by the time of that 2006 release. And quick side note here, if you really want to know what Black famous means, like just basically watch any of the stars that you see in Tyler Perry productions and then nothing else. Okay, so back to our discussion. By the age of 30, Keke had an IMDb page longer and more robust than most of her white counterparts. She's dazzled in roles for television and film, spanning the genres of comedy, drama, horror, variety, and even talk shows. She had her own Nickelodeon series, True Jackson VP, from 2008 to 2011. She became the youngest person ever to host her own talk show in 2014. She was 20 years old at the time. She does animated series and made for TV movies. She killed it as the host of Saturday Night Live in 2022, where she also revealed that she was pregnant. Again, just a genius move.
Yes.
And she launched her own all-digital network, Key TV, that same year. Since then, we've seen her release new music, host game shows and award shows, continue serving on screen and in audiobooks, and host a popular podcast, Baby, This is Keke Palmer. I once heard her affectionately referred to as Keke Keeps a Job Palmer, and it clearly fits.
Yes, it really does because Keke does it all. And I think we could all see how talented she was in the role of Akeelah. Like we knew from watching her in that role that this girl's got something. And she made that experience feel so real. And I found the plot relatable for so many reasons. For one, I also participated in a regional spelling bee when I was in elementary school, of course, because I'm a nerd. And I remember making flashcards and practicing. And my school was a lot like the school that Akeelah went to in the sense that it wasn't well resourced. I mean, we were participating in this bee, but we didn't have coaches or, anything like that. It was just like, oh, you do really well on your spelling test, so you should consider, participating in this spelling bee. And so I went pretty far in the regional competition, but I didn't make it to the state or national level. And I think one reason was just nerves. Like you're up there on stage and like you're spelling in front of everyone. And I was always very shy as a kid. So like that was hard for me. It was much harder to do it on stage versus like in a classroom. But it's actually probably a good thing because, baby, the words that I was practicing were nothing like the words that I've seen at the actual script spelling bee, because those words have humbled me as an adult. Okay.
I know, right?
Some of those words, I'm like, what in the world is that?
Exactly.
So, it was relatable in the sense that I had participated in something like that, but also just so inspiring because of the circumstances that Akeelah found herself in and still managing to be successful. I think there were so many aspects of the movie that felt like the plot could have been based on the lives of, any Black girl. Like you just pick a random Black girl and something about Akeelah would resonate with that Black girl. Lots of us grew up with single mothers. Lots of us were in schools where we were so far ahead of the curriculum that our teachers didn't really know what to do with us. A lot of us came from families or households that struggled financially. But one thing that stands out to me about Akeelah and the Bee is that at the end, Akeelah, the poor Black girl from the hood, wins. And now I admit that Akeelah's triumph fits into a neoliberal framework that centers individual success over structural change. But for me, that doesn't diminish the significance of what it means to portray a Black girl protagonist as smart, empathetic, because she shared that winning trophy with that other boy, and she did not have to. She let him rise to her level.
What are you doing? What are you doing? You just threw that word. So did you. You're just gonna give this all away? Your dad will be happy. Who cares? He's never won anything in his life. I won the regionals 3 times in a row. And I finished second in the nationals twice. And now you can finish first. I could do it next year. You do your best this year. Dylan. You do your best. Oh, I don't want it.
Here's your water.
Logorrhea. Logorrhea. Logorrhea.
Congratulations, Dylan. You've won the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated for Akeelah's turn.
Pulchritude.
Pulchritude.
It's derived from the Latin word pulchere, meaning beautiful, isn't it?
That's correct.
P-U-L-C-H-R-I-T-U-D-E. Pulchritude.
Congratulations, Akeelah.
Because this film is told from Akeelah's perspective, the focus is not the teachers in the school, which is something we commonly see in these sort of, urban at-risk youth is rescued kind of films. The focus isn't necessarily the school. The focus isn't necessarily her family, right? They're there. And of course, we get a wonderful performance by Angela Bassett, who portrays her mother. As an audience, we get to see a film centered in Akeelah's perspective. And so within that, there are a few things that stood out to me that I wanted to talk about with you. One is the burden of success. Mm-hmm. So you just talked about how Akeelah is this Black girl genius, and she is rising above not just her circumstances, but also pretty much all the other kids in her school who kind of pick on her because being a Black girl genius, some of the kids do. But as her community sees how successful she is, as even her family, members of her family who aren't really privy to what's going on with the spelling bee until she starts winning at a certain level, then it's like she has no choice but to win. When you are a Black girl genius, that comes with a level of expectation that you don't necessarily see attached to girls who are racialized as white.
Right. I think that burden of expectation is also a way that Black girls experience adultification, because that's not something that is congruent with childhood or having like a carefree childhood if you're already having these expectations placed upon you about what success looks like and being genius and what that means to not just you, but to your community and to your family.
Absolutely. At one point, the principal of the school, who is white, essentially tells Akeelah that if she doesn't win in the spelling bee in advance to the national rounds, that the school may close down.
Right.
So whoever wins the school bee today gets to represent Crenshaw at the district bee next month.
Why would anybody want to represent a school that can't even put doors on the toilet stalls?
Akeelah, if we can't show our students can perform, we're not going to have money for books, let alone bathroom doors. Now, I want you to do the beat today, all right?
So everybody can call me a freak and a brainiac? No, I ain't down for no spelling bee.
Well, maybe you'd be down for spending the rest of the semester in detention for all your absences.
She initially has resistance to competing for a couple of reasons. One, when she competes just at the school spelling bee, it intensifies the bullying that she's already experiencing, right? Other kids in the school, in this case, two girls, find out that she's really smart. They want her to do their homework. They proceed to bully her. That bullying kind of intensifies at the spelling bee. And I kept wondering what I always wonder when I see things like this in movies, which is, why don't the teachers do anything? There were all these adults in the room. In any case, she is resistant because of the bullying aspect, but she's also resistant because she says, why would I want to compete for a school that can't even afford to put doors on the bathroom stalls?
Right.
Which immediately I'm like, what? There's no doors on the bathroom stalls. But I completely get what she's saying. She has a very sophisticated understanding of the structural constraints that she's up against. And yet the principal is fixing the school onto her shoulders. And that's, to your point, that's a kind of adultification that I don't think we talk about enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing was trauma. One of the common things that we see in films where we see a young person who's considered like an at-risk youth, right, living in an under-resourced neighborhood, is there's usually lots of death around them. There's this sense of they have kind of two roads in life. One is a criminal road that leads to an early death, right? One is a road that leads to exiting out of their neighborhood. The neighborhood in and of itself is portrayed as what's hurting the young person. In this case, Akeelah actually loses her father. We found out he was murdered on his way home from work. She was just 6 years old at that time. So she is a 11-year-old girl with a broken heart because of that. And then there's all of this noise that she constantly has to deal with. There's almost never a quiet day in her neighborhood. So while she is practicing her words and going through her flashcards, she is doing it to a soundtrack of sirens and I think like helicopter propellers and things like that.
And her sister has a baby. So like there's also the baby like crying in the background. And I think her sister being a teen mom highlights that dichotomy that you were just talking about, where it's like, oh, you can choose the so-called delinquent path,
right,
or you can try to rise above your surroundings through education, even though the school that you're going to is like barely providing any real quality educational resources.
Right. To your point, this neoliberal idea gets reinforced that your fate is ultimately in your hands, right? You flourish or perish based on your own decisions. And I think another side of that dichotomy comes out in how we see Akeelah's mother interacting with her. So Akeelah's mom is, I read, as incredibly loving and nurturing, but as super stressed out, right? She has 4 children. One of them is in the Navy or Air Force, right? And comes home when he has leave. And then she has 3 children and a grandchild all living under her roof. And she is the provider for her family. So she has to work long hours. She has to work on weekends. She is maintaining a lot. Not to mention, of course, she also has a broken heart because she has lost her husband and her co-parent. And we don't see, and this is something that I think the film gets wrong to a degree, we don't really see her leaning on community. And I think that part of why we don't see that is because the film, like a lot of films, wants to paint simpler, less complicated portrait of what life is like in the quote hood. But the reality is that the hood isn't just a place where good things go to die. It is also a place where you can find community and nurturing, and where people lean on one another. It's also a place of mutual thriving and support. So we don't get that aspect of it. But because the mother is so stressed out, she isn't fully aware of how Akeelah is advancing with these spelling bees. Until one day, Akeelah comes home very late and her mother has been waiting up for her. Before this scene, we see a similar scene with one of Akeelah's older siblings, an older brother who is essentially being groomed by a gang, right? We see him getting in trouble, right? Him staying out all times of night and the stress that that brings to the mother who is trying to keep him on the straight and narrow. This is set up as this sort of interesting precursor to what we see when Akeelah is coming home from practicing for a spelling bee with kids who live in a more affluent neighborhood and go to an affluent school. So she's essentially been away doing not even homework, extra credit.
Right.
But her mother scolds her just the same, right? And kind of compares her to her brother, like, I'm not going to be waiting up for you and not knowing where you are.
Where the hell have you been?
Studying.
Studying where?
Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills? What you doing there?
They got a spelling club.
Did Mr. Welch take you? 'Cause ain't nobody called me.
I went by myself. I didn't think the bus ride would take so long. I'm sorry.
Akeelah Anderson, you done lost your mind. You 11 years old. You don't be taking the bus to Woodland Hills by yourself.
There's nobody around to take me.
That's 'cause I work.
That's what you said on the weekend. All the other kids have their parents at the district B.
Well, maybe the other kids have parents who got more time on their hands. Look, I'm not having another child of mine disappearing at all hours. So if this spelling thing means sneaking off to the suburbs by yourself, I'm calling it all off.
We can't call it off. I'm going to the regional B.
Not if you flunk out of school, you're not. I just got a letter saying you got to take summer school to make up for all these classes you done skipped.
But, Mama, I hate Crenshaw. It is so boring.
Initially, it looks like even Akeelah's mother is kind of her enemy, right? Or something, someone, some force that she has to overcome in order to fully flourish. That isn't the only perspective we get to see. There are other moments later on in the film where we do see Akeelah's mother encouraging her and having these moments of vulnerability with her, where she's sharing her struggles, she's sharing her own fears and anxiety. She's talking about how she had aspirations to go further in her education and how fear was one of the things that kept her from that, and how that sort of shaped the way she shows up as a mother. So we do get somewhat of a fuller picture, but there's still this sense that Akeelah isn't just in a bad Black neighborhood, she also has a bad Black mama.
Right. Which is all too common in depictions of Black mothers and daughters in popular films.
Yeah. The last thing that stood out to me that I want to touch on was this idea of how Black people flourish, right? What does it look like for Akeelah to gain success? And how the film sets this up is how it's set up in most films of this kind. The farther she gets away from her community, the farther she gets away from a certain kind of urban working class Blackness, the better off she is.
Mm-hmm.
So the sort of fairy godmother or fairy godfather, as it were, that shows up to sort of usher her up and away is portrayed by Lawrence Fishburne, who is an English professor. Back in his day, he excelled in the spelling bees, and he comes along to coach Akeelah. But he does so in a way that degrades and demeans the cultural aesthetics that have shaped Akeelah's life up to this point. One of the first things he tells her when they are meeting up for their first coaching session, if you will, is not to use, quote, ghetto talk around him.
Right.
And I laughed out loud when I saw this. I'm like, ghetto talk. That sounds like it's straight out of a Bill Cosby speech.
Right.
So he is insisting that in order to advance and to be successful with the spelling bees, she has to shed these parts of herself that aren't respectable. He also scolds her repeatedly about being late. Mind you, it appears that she's had to walk to his house from her house. Nobody's helped her with this. She's figuring this out as an 11-year-old. And by the way, the fate of her school is on her shoulders. So my thought is, can we get the girl taxi fare, right? Can we have a little grace for this child who is making her way and doing a darn good job of it? But it's supposed to be this sort of tough love dynamic. But I think what it's really shielding is just a sense of, if you can't be his kind of Black, then you won't be a successful Black.
You're late.
He didn't answer the door.
That's because you're late. Come in. So, you want to learn how to spell?
I know how to spell.
Spell Staphylococci.
S-T-A-F.
There is no F. It's derived from the Greek, so there can't be an F. Staphylococci. Staphylococci. Winning word, National Spelling Bee, 1987.
So why you home during the day? Ain't you got a job?
Do me a favor. Leave the ghetto talk outside, all right?
Ghetto talk? I don't talk ghetto.
Ain't you got no job? You use that language to fit in with your friends. Here, you will speak properly or you won't speak at all. Understood?
Yeah. Whatever.
You can leave now.
Excuse me?
I said you can leave.
How come?
Because I don't have time to waste on insolent little girls.
Insolent? I ain't I'm not insolent. It's just the first thing you do is start dogging on, criticizing the way I speak. I thought this was just about spelling words. You know what? When I put my mind to it, I can memorize anything. And I don't need help from a dictatorial, truculent, supercilious gardener. I'm sorry to be so insolent.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in the film is when she says something about how she missed practice because she had to pick out a gift or something. I can't remember what the occasion was. And she said, she was buying a gift for him, actually. And she was like, I wasn't trying to diss you. And he says, I thought I told you, no ghetto talk or whatever. And she goes to the dictionary and finds the word diss in the dictionary as short for disrespectful or disrespecting. And she was like, new words get added to the dictionary every day. And I was like, yeah, it's way to stand up for yourself and to clap back at this idea that somehow the language that you're using is inferior or, not appropriate. So I thought that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, she had a lot of just good doses of irreverence, right? We see her as a truly wise 11-year-old who is not just street smart, but who has the type of critical analysis skills that we try to hone with our students in our college classrooms. I love seeing that on display in all of her clapback moments. One of the reasons why I'm drawn to this film is because it stands out as one of the few films of this kind of genre where fluent and compassionate adults rescue extraordinary kids from their urban ghetto environments. This focuses on a Black girl. We are used to seeing the focus be on Black boys, right? Just like with television, as we talked about throughout this season, there was a series of films that had this tone. Among them are some of my favorites. Coach Carter, which has some of the best one-liners ever. Yeah. Coach Carter, played by Samuel L. Jackson. Finding Forrester, Freedom Writers. A lot of these films included ensemble casts, but the focus was often on boys. This, we get a sense of what it's like to be a Black girl making your own way.
Absolutely. And I really love that this movie is the movie where Keke Palmer was able to experience her breakout role. And I think that for me, it's the movie that, or the reason why I kind of always in my head envision Keke Palmer as like my little sister, or like, Black women's little sister, because we've literally watched her grow up over the years. Like we watched her in that movie and other movies before that where she had a secondary role. But like that movie, we saw her as, she played an 11-year-old, and I think she probably was close to that age.
Yeah.
In real life. And so we watched her grow up on our screens. I really hope that we'll get to see her continue to shine, not just on screen, but in everything that she does for decades to come. And I also hope that you all will tune into our next season as we keep the spotlight on Black girls in some of our favorite movies from our own girlhoods and beyond.